Guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're over on the YouTube account. Today's video we're going to be breaking down the Awakened tier list. Now overall through the past 2 years, which is kind of incredible to think about, we have gotten a ton of Awakened heroes and they have become kind of the most primary heroes that are used within AFK Arena. So we're going to break down the tier list utility-wise, and I want to go over one hero in specifically first, which of course is Eugene. Now Eugene, because we do not have the ability to build him, the effectiveness of him is still kind of questioned at this point. Now, a lot of players are also saying that we can get him in the guild shop and that he is going to permanently stay in the guild shop, which I think would be an absolute game changer. Having the ability to save those time emblems to actually have Eugene with another method to get an Awakened hero. Now, as you can see right here, guys, we have him at Legendary Plus. I also do have one additional copy out of the events that we are doing, including out of that guild shop. We already do have a couple copies of him. Now, when you think of a copy of him, it is roughly 50 to 70 time emblems that you have to spend with regular RNG just to get a copy of him. So being able to build him up to where I have, I'm super stoked about being able to, again, get him to this point without having to build the heroes themselves. So let's go ahead, guys, and we'll break down this tier list. All right, guys, so here is the tier list over on Tier Maker. Now, overall, we're going to go through this tier list, and I want to give you kind of the logic and the reasoning behind these guys. Now, when you look at even our SSS tier, these are the heroes that have an incredible amount of utility through a lot of different game modes. So when you look at the Awakened version of Athalia, she's being used everywhere. When you start looking at Faction Towers, Treasure Scramble, Nightmare Corridor, Twisted Realm, Temple Rift, this is a hero that has an absolute priority, and it is the #1 priority right now to build when it comes to heroes, again, just because of the utility that we see with this hero, followed by the Awakened version of Shamira. Now, overall, she was a little bit of a slow start at the beginning, but looking at where she falls right now, only where she's not being used at this time is the Twisted Realm. So the Twisted Realm, we know, is a pretty static formation because the bosses are on regular rotation. So we haven't seen a lot of changes when it comes to the heroes in there, but a little bit different than the Awakened version of Athalia is Athalia is being used in a lot of the Twisted Realm comps, where the Awakened version of Shamira is not. Now, looking at the Awakened version of Leica, very similar, guys. Majority of game modes, Treasure Scramble, Nightmare Corridor, Twisted Realm, she is being used, as well as Campaign Faction Towers, the Rift, still being used within the Cursed Realm as well. So again, when it comes to utility-wise, it's very, very impressive that some of these heroes have been able to hold on for the amount of time that they have, which of course includes the Awakened version of Baden, guys. Now, when you look at the Cursed Realm and the Nightmare Corridor, this is one of the biggest driving forces. Guys, Baden is still a priority and #1 priority, really, within both of those game modes, meaning that if you do not have them, the formation fundamentally changes when you're doing a swap or moving someone in there, which he is really the only first generation or the first iteration of the Awakened heroes that we had that is still remaining in that SSS class. As we know, the Awakened version of Athalia, Shamira, and Leica did come with the second season or the second generation of those Awakened heroes. So he is still holding tight, guys. In addition, when it comes to a couple different game modes, again, Faction Towers, he absolutely dominates. Cursed Realm, again, Treasure Scramble doing incredibly well. Nightmare Corridor doing well. Even the Temple Rift or the Twisted Realm and the Temple Rift still doing incredibly well within those game modes. And of course, the campaign, we are still seeing a lot of play in there. Which, interesting enough, guys, because that takes the Awakened version of Belinda just a little bit lower. And the reason being the Nightmare Corridor. So overall, we are not seeing team comps. We are not seeing a lot of runs that are running the Awakened version of Belinda within the Nightmare Corridor. And the big reason is the damage over a very short amount of time. Because similar to the Cursed Realm, where you have a team, you have 5 heroes, you have 5 opponents, and you don't actually kill the target. Within the Nightmare Corridor, she's not super effective because the damage comes over time. The damage comes with a lot of different targets. Still being used again some places, but not seeing as much utility in that game mode. Now, again, when you look at her, the Faction Towers, the Cursed Realm, the Temple Rift, absolutely dominating those. Treasure Scramble, the Twisted Realm, absolutely dominating those. But again, it just drops her just slightly into that SS class because the Nightmare Corridor utilization is not there. Now, overall, we're starting to see there are some formations where, again, she is kind of slowly being replaced is kind of what we've seen which I think as we continue with new heroes, as we continue into 2024, we're probably going to see a little bit less of a utility from her overall, just based on the game mode and based on the power creep that we do see. Now, when we look at our support heroes, guys, when we talk about the Awakened version of Solus and Sophia, both of them, again, when you look at their faction towers, when you look at the Cursed Realm, the Treasure Scramble, Nightmare Corridor, we're still seeing an incredible amount of utility in there. Even looking at the Twisted Realm, looking at the Temple Rift, the Awakened version of Solus still does have a little bit more utility than we're seeing with Sophia, but both of them are still being used in a lot of different places. Now, Matria is another one, guys, starting to see her slide a little bit. When it comes to the Nightmare Corridor, not seeing her in a lot of comps. When it comes to the Twisted Realm, again, not seeing her really in any comps anymore, which is kind of phasing out some of these. Again, similar to what we see with a few other heroes. They're losing their footing in some areas, which again is pretty interesting to see. Now, Brutus is another one, guys. He's starting to slowly slide down the tier list. Big thing with him, he comes in Faction Towers, of course, dominating. Cursed Realm, Treasure Scramble, Nightmare Corridor still does incredibly well. It's still run in a lot of different formations. Twisted Realm, not there. And then the Temple Rift, of course, very prevalent in there. Now, interesting enough, guys, Gavus is one that we're going to see. And I feel like it might be a little bit too early to kind of rate him right now. But we have started seeing him as of right now in the Cursed Realm. We see him in the Cursed Realm formation. So right there, he's starting to gain a little bit of ground. We have also seen him in the Treasure Scramble. We've seen him there quite a bit. Again, as a staple formation, I feel like he is very, very strong when it comes to PvP. When it comes to the Treasure Scramble, he is going to do incredibly well and holds a lot of weight in that game mode because of the damage reduction and the damage that he is putting out. But again, I can see him kind of growing a little bit in popularity as people get him, as people find a place to put him. He is starting to work into formations. Only place we haven't really seen him as of right now is the Nightmare Corridor, but other places we have seen a lot of utility when it comes to Gavus overall. Again, he's going to be one to really keep an eye out. So now we look at the Awakened version of Thane, guys. Again, Treasure Scramble still used in some formations. Faction Tower definitely used. When it comes to the Twisted Realm, when it comes to Treasure Scramble still dominating as one of the key heroes. The Rift, he does incredibly well, but there are a couple game modes, again, the Twisted Realm starting to fall down a little bit. Nightmare Corridor not seeing as much utility. Cursed Realm not really being used in many formations, if any formations anymore. As we continue to get more heroes, he just continues to kind of go down a little bit further on the tier list, which can be the same said for right here, guys. The Awakened version of the Awakened version of Talene and the Awakened version of Aziz. Now, Talene at this point, I believe it is exclusively kind of burnt into the towers, and that is it, guys. I don't know anyone outside of the towers that is using the hero at all. Again, there's a couple different places. Campaign works pretty well. Rift does work pretty well. Faction Towers, of course, going to have a lot of utility, which is the same with the Awakened version of Aziz. Now, the only caveat or the only saving grace to the Awakened version of Aziz is the Nightmare Corridor, specifically for one boss that you actually have to crowd control. He, even at just having one single copy of the gold or the legendary, you only need one copy to make it work effectively, which is literally the only place that the hero is still being used. Very interesting to see. And then, of course, on the very bottom, guys, with our triple question mark back here, like I said earlier, because of Eugene, we don't know exactly where he's going to work, and we don't have him built up to the point of having a lot of utility that we can actually get him. Now, when he comes in, overall, I feel like, when it comes to the Cursed Realm and Nightmare Corridor, definitely going to be used just because of the damage he's putting out. Treasure Scramble, I feel like PvP-wise, we're going to see a lot of changes in there. So I feel like overall, he's probably going to go in this SS tier, probably where Gavus is. But we're going to have to see exactly where he lands. And also, we're going to have to see what it looks like for the utility of both of those heroes actually be running in formations together and seeing exactly how that gameplay works, what it looks like, what does the damage look like, similar to what we see with Lucilla and Liberta. What is going to be the benefit of really running them together? So again, guys, my opinion when it comes to the Awakened heroes, if you're already building out an Awakened hero and you already have a multitude of copies, finish them out, guys. When you look even at the SSS and the SS tier, This encompasses almost all of our Awakened heroes. Now that is by design. That is right, guys. Looking back when the Awakened heroes were released, by design, these heroes are exponentially stronger than your regular 4 faction heroes, even exponentially stronger than the Celestial and the Hypo heroes. And that is by design. That's why they're so incredibly difficult to get. That's why it takes a lot more time and effort to build them. And you actually have to build them to have all of the utility that the hero does possess. But all right, guys, wanted to share this again. So a lot of players have been asking about it. The Awakened version of Athalia is still #1 when it comes to utility wise, but even building any of these really within these top 2 tiers, you're going to see a lot of utility. So that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.